You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 210. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. As we wrap up 2023, I have what I think is one of the best interviews that I've done this year, and I know it is going to prepare you for the year ahead. My guest is my dear friend, Sylvia Vasquez-Lavado. She is the first Peruvian woman to climb Mount Everest. She's the author of In the Shadow of the Mountain, and she is simply one of the most beautiful human beings on this planet. She is the true definition of authentic, and you know I don't like that word, but we discuss it, and she brings new light to the definition of what it means to be authentic and vulnerable. And I absolutely love it. I know that this conversation is going to make you reflect on the year that we've had and on what your intentions are for the year to come. What is it that you truly want to happen? Not just in a practical sense, but what are you dreaming of? These are all questions we should be asking ourselves now. And Sylvia puts it so beautifully. I could truly listen to her talk all day long because she's so inspiring. She's so genuine and simply a really, really good person that we can all learn from. And she's so humble about it as well. So I am so excited to share with you my conversation with Sylvia Vasquez-Lavado. Hi, Sylvia.
Hello, Michelle.
I'm so happy to see your smiling face.
Oh,
That was exactly how I described you to my husband and children was she smiles so big. Like you can't miss this woman. She's fantastic.
you're too sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm just thrilled to be here. You are such a gift to all of us, and I'm so excited and honored to be here. So thank you.
Oh, you melt my heart because I believe you're the gift. So can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Hi, everybody. I am so thrilled to be here with Michelle, and I am Silvia Vasquez-Lavado, the author of In the Shadow of the Mountain. It is my memoir that came out last year, and I am thrilled to have an opportunity to talk a lot about it. It is my own journey finding healing and achieving the dream of climbing the tallest mountain in the world. But it's about finding healing through mountaineering, through awe and inspiration. And I am just so excited to be able to share this with you.
It's fantastic. I loved it. And it's so beautifully written because here I am. I've met you already, and I know that you made it to the top. And yet I still was reading it going, will she make it? Is she going to make it?
It actually, it's interesting. I mean, it actually feels like a spoiler alert that I'm like, hi, I'm talking about it. And it is like, well, something happened. But I think what it is beautiful about the journey that it really is not a mountaineering journey. It's a metaphor to so many things. And I've always been mentioning that it feels like it's three books in one because uh, it's my whole story of the challenges, the struggles, all the life before really kind of getting into this crazy adventure, but also it's a beautiful story of healing and healing in community, healing with the girls, learning. It's such a roller coaster ride, and I know it's so beautiful to get so many notes and emails and requests from people about the story, and yeah, I'm thrilled to be sharing it today.
Let's give people a short synopsis because we don't want to give it all away. But from your childhood, which just it rocks me to the core of what you went through, and I cried throughout to know what you went through. And then to know you, it's one thing when you read about what someone has gone through, especially as a child, and then to meet this person in the flesh. I want to hug you and not let go. And then your journey to America. You've done so many incredible things. I love that it's called a memoir of courage because you are the true definition of courageous.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Michelle. I'm very, very lucky. I think we all have our stories, and I was very purposeful when writing this one to there's so much pain out there, and it's ironic. I started writing it in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of the isolation, and I was on my own, and I was just recently sober, and it actually reopened some of the most painful sides, and it taught me a lot about you know it's hard at times to realize that we are not alone, especially when we are so deep dark into our pain. And I felt, for me to share it as raw as it would, as the book comes out, it would eventually touch into someone who potentially feels they are alone. I mean, to almost be shameless and just share as many details in the way that you get to know me pretty well. And I love it as people get who read the book and then they get to meet me, and they feel like, I know your life quite good. I'm like, yeah, that was intention in a way, just to being as transparent as I could.
And you're such a genuine person. I loved when we met and you said to the whole room, if you need to cry, you can come to me. And it was beautiful because you're like, it's fine. We all cry. This is who we are. And then running into you the next day in Palo Alto. And I remember there was something about you that it struck me because I was like, I want to get to know this woman better. I came home and I told my family all about you. And
Oh,
then I see you in the back of the bookstore. And at first I'm like, my contacts are a little dry. That employee really looks a lot like Sylvia. And there you were, not the bookstore employee. And it just made my day because you show up and you continue to show up. And before we started recording, we were talking about promises, and you keep your promise. You are one of those people, and I admire it and I appreciate it so much because you keep showing up every time you say you will, and even then some.
then that is hard. I have to tell you. I think and unfortunately, like many of us, at times, promises have been broken on me, and I think, flakiness, or people say things, and I try to be cautious about it. I think that there is a level of accountability, and actually, and I think promises, and I think sometimes we get to confuse promises with timing and scheduling when. And that is something that I had to learn through the journey, and that's what it is so beautiful about the way that the book is told, is almost the aspiration, the dream, the idea comes to fruition, but it doesn't come at the timing that we might expect. And I think at times when we try to commit to something, or even when we say promises, I think many of us give up easily because we feel like, oh, it just happened already, or yeah, it wasn't the time, or oh, I'm out of time, or embarrassing. And I think that's a consistency that we just need to trust. There is no timeline. I mean, well, there's certain timelines, I guess, in terms of certain things with work and blah blah blah, but in general, I think when it comes to anything personal growth, we should not just put time as an excuse that if we don't fulfill a promise. I think everything, when it's done heartfelt, when there is a way that the will is there, it doesn't matter the time.
I love that. And you're someone who's very busy. I know this.
Yeah. Well, I've
You're
been
always
traveling quite
traveling.
a bit. I've had a very exciting travel schedule, though. I'm thrilled to be home to now ground the holidays, to close the year, to start the year with new promises, new wishes. I am such a big New Year's traditions and all the different things, all the goodness. So I'm very excited to get a chance. And I mean, 2024 feels like a beautiful year. So I am thrilled to be looking into it.
I want to talk about your mindset and the way you put things out into the universe because I feel like that's also part of what your year will be of. And starting even with the cover of your book and how that came about to what you imagined is going to happen. We know things are coming, your way.
Yes, actually, this is the cover of the US book, and I'm actually going to open up my iPad and share the cover of or actually not the cover, but the dream. So the timing is August 2018, and I am barely sober. I started working internally. I started doing a lot of the powerful meditations that have gotten me to where I am. And I remember in one of my visions, I had this very clear dream that my cover that I was going to write a book, and I actually had made that idea back in 2017, the year after Everest, when I got into a horrible accident. And I always had that intention, but it was always the fear about like, what is going to happen? So I'm showing here. Let's see if it shows up on this end. All right, it says August 2018. And this is the book cover that I did, which was going to be called, The Inner Mountain. And I kind of drew a little mountain. I suck when it comes to drawing, but it's still like I gave it a very good shot. And I put it on my vision board. I have a vision board, and I was like, boom, that's just put it out there, blah blah blah. And then when we sell the book and we get a book deal, a couple years after, I get the UK publisher, the designer, sending me a cover of my book, and I flipped because it looks like this,
It's the
and it is
same.
my drawing. And they had never seen my drawing. That was secret. That was hidden. That was on my little, special board. And I kind of went like, what? And the one thing that is actually even more magical, if you look at the photo, there's a little girl looking at the mountain. What is the color of the backpack?
Red.
Well, there is no way that I say on the book that I had a red backpack. And that is exactly what I da, 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 da. That is exactly the color of the backpack that I take to the top of Everest.
It's amazing.
So that I think was the biggest lesson in terms of really manifesting something that I thought it was impossible. And I remember even like it took me a second by the time I saw the design and going like, oh my God, what wait, I've seen this before. And I was like, and it just hit me. But that is the power of what actually of those dreams. I love the word itself that it says dreams, that it comes from a place of, in the middle of our minds being in this unconscious mode. And I think a lot of the answers are there. The challenge is they're scary because the whole idea of ever writing a story, of bringing it out, was one of the freakiest things for me. I just never saw myself as who would want to read it. There's so many books about Everest. What is going to be the interest? So we put a lot of like no, no, no. But I think my humblest lesson on this was yes, yes, yes. I mean, whatever external powers are there, the universe, God, the Virgin, it's like, why not? I mean, it's yes, yes, yes. And it's like, and especially I think when we say it out loud, in this case, drawing it, I mean, as like as childish as it looked, this particular drawing, it is powerful what our intentions can create. And I think that is one lesson that it still blows me away. And I'm still a fan of vision boards. And even this year, I did some changes, and oh my God, like some things became true. So I'm just gonna, I highly recommend that for anyone who is with that idea that I want to be able to write a book one day, say it out loud. And I go back to it because I even say it in the book about the whole idea of telling about climbing Everest. For over 10 years, I kept telling people, one day I'm going to climb Everest, one day, one day, one day. And I believe and every time I would say it, I would be like, oh my God, that's scary. That's scary. And it's scary. And I will never forget the scene when I get to the base of Everest. now, about to start the expedition, and I'm looking at it going like, oh God, what did I do? And even the same with the book. I mean, as I started writing, and I was like, oh God, what am I doing? I mean, so yeah, I feel that that is the beautiful part. But when it is made with heart, when it is made with intention, when it is made coming from a place, especially at times of putting it out of service, magic happens. I mean, I want to be one of these infomercials from the 80s when, at 2 a.m. you will be watching and it is like, guarantee, result guarantee, and I'll give you your money back. The same situation I want to tell you right now. If you dream with intention, if you put it out there, guaranteed it's going to happen.
I love that. And, we talked last week about this, and you asked me, what are your dreams? What do you want to do? And, get the gratitude journal. The gratitude journal is here. It's going to be a Christmas
Oh,
present to myself.
oh, that is, it's on sale right now.
it,
But actually, yeah, I mean, any
it's,
gratitude journal, any journal, I think journaling, people talk about journaling, just putting it writing, just say it to yourself, whatever you want. That's the key.
But even having the conversation with you, it's made me in the past week think about it. It keeps coming up in my head of, okay, what you said, but is that really what you want? Or is there something else that you really want? Like, what is it that I am dreaming of? And these are questions that I'm asking. So I'm hoping that everyone who's listening to you will then walk away going, I need to think about this too. What is it that I want to manifest to happen? Because I believe it does.
Okay. Let's get it very attractive. I mean, Michelle, what is it that you're wanting to do? What is it? What is it that you want to manifest? Let's put you in the hot seat. I mean, let's do it.
The last time I had someone come on and do this, I wrote a book. So
Okay, hey. Okay, let's have it.
I told you that I really want to be the person who helps tell the stories of others. And I do want that. I also want to build an agency that is just ridiculous. Everyone wants to come here. Everyone wants me to be the one to help them identify their topics. I want to flip the whole, author industry around so that you can do this on your own, but you come to me for it too.
Yeah.
And I want to change the world in that way. I want people to hear their stories, to hear your story, to be motivated and inspired by it. I want to be the person that really pushes all of that. I told you I want to be the Oprah of podcasts. I want to be that force that is behind it all, and I want to make millions while I'm doing it, because why not?
Why not? Why not? I mean, but I would say the first thing is you have the intention, you're creating the platform, you're putting the invitation out there, and it is more about saying it out loud. I mean, and visualizing how you're going to do it. Visualizing, in the little silly photo, I visualize, oh, it's going to look like this, titty, 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 titty. And granted, I mean, I love this cover because the infinity symbol, I
Hmm.
mean, even though it has a little bit of a climbing symbol, it is, I mean, it represents so much to me in terms of who we are, in terms of our role here. That there is an ongoing continuum to all of our stories. But I would say, as you're saying it, keep putting intention. Imagine every day as you're getting there. I mean, imagine. I don't know. Like I'm trying, and even like for myself. I mean, I try every day. Usually I write things, and now I'm actually, even as I'm waking up, it's like, okay, what is it? The purpose? What am I purposeful about today? And even trying to tell it to myself, and just it's powerful. I mean, I think we just have to have the little trust. I mean, little faith, not to be too controversial for those who don't believe in faith, but just to have that belief that we are energy, that we attract anything, that we can create anything. And it's the harder part is the timing. And I think we can be so hard with ourselves about it. We can be about like, well, when I mean, and I'm coming from the tech world. Back when I was on that end, it was all about deadlines, and it was all about like 3 months, it needs to be done. And it felt like there was this race about, well, when you're so and so at this age, you got to be achieving this in order to be like, noticeable, blah, blah, blah. And what I have learned in this new world is that who creates that? I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's about the joy of our journey while we're getting there, and just to trust the timing. And I keep calling it. I keep surrender to divine timing. And I have no idea how I came across that term, but it is something that, and I keep hearing it more and more. We just have to surrender to divine timing. And it's like, as long as the promise is there, as long as the intention is there, as long as the drive is there, it'll happen. So I'm 100%, like I feel 100%, Michelle, that yeah, who knows in X years from now, or in X months, or who knows for 2024. I mean, you just never know. Boom, you can be sitting on a plane, and Oprah's producer could be there. uh I mean, you just never know. Or you can be, I mean, it is unreal how some of these things happen. And I think what it is important is just like, keep your heart open, and boom, let open to magic.
And I think putting it out in the universe and saying it is really impactful too. I did this, and one of my close girlfriends, Karen, that you met in Solvang, I told her, I said, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to get it published. I'm not going to self publish. I'm going to do this. And then she goes, and then all of a sudden you're like, I got a book deal and it's coming out. And it just, but I'm also of the same mindset that you come from in the corporate world of, okay, we got to go, 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 go. And so even with my book, I'm like, I got to go. I got to get it done. I want it out in the world. We got to go. We got to go. And so I put that pressure on myself of, we got to make it happen. Let's go, go, go. But then at the same time, I'm now in my 40s, and I see how beautiful it is that all of these people are like, well, I didn't start this until I was 40. I started this when I was 50. And we have this time. And I think we cherish it even more as we get older.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that I'm trying to, how can I say it? I mean, the one thing that we get with age is wisdom.
Hmm.
That it is, it's unmatched. I mean, we have a saying in Spanish that I that I love. It's like, más sabe el diablo por viejo que por diablo. The devil knows more because he's old than because he's a devil. And I love it because age brings something that you can never match. And this is what is always interesting in terms of seeing a lot of people who are starting, like, I don't know, and especially in certain careers, when you show up, there are people in their 20s or 30s, or so many new funders, and at times you feel like, comparing to them. Never compare yourself to anyone. Never compare yourself to anybody's journey. And just trust. I mean, I in my in my soul, I live like a 20-year-old in terms of the energy. I mean, I'm attempting to go back to Everest 2025. I mean, I'm already not that young, almost 10 years after I did my first trip, but I'm going with the same passion, the same energy, the same exercise. I mean, the one great thing is that I know a little bit of the route. So I mean, but there is something that we should never undermine. Each experience, each day we've gone through is a wisdom lesson. And just to be able to remember that. I think the more that we get stuck on comparing ourselves to others, that's when our wisdom goes away. And we should just trust that learning. And I think and be open into that learning, because we can be, if we're stubborn, then forget it, nothing is going to happen. But no, I think it's very exciting.
Listening to you say you're going to go again brings up the thought in my head of, you've had this once in a lifetime experience. That's what most would call it. And yet you're
Hmm.
going to have it again. So it's not a once in a lifetime for you. It's just something you do. What is that like? Because for so many, it's something that will never happen. Am I going to climb Everest? Most likely not. I think about it now that I know you, but
Well, going to the base of Everest could be different.
yeah.
I and I laugh. I mean, I have one of the craziest dreams of going back to Everest. I mean, and the part of me that is excited about it is one that I wouldn't have the pressure. I mean, I respect the mountain, and ideally, hopefully she will allow me to get to the top, but also it will be an experience. And that is something that I have learned on every single expedition that I've gone through, on any, even not just the big mountains that I have done, any little mountains that I have been. I mean, if anything, I joke that the little mountains are the ones that I've got my closest call, rather than the big ones. And so to me, it's more like a personal challenge. I would love also to go and have a different appreciation, because even that very first time, and you can feel it as you're reading the book. I
Mhm.
mean, you can sense the nervousness, you can sense, and as you said, even though you see me walking, it's like, oh my god, because at multiple times it doesn't feel like, yeah, this poor woman, how the hell is she going to make it? And even when I read so many other passages, it's still like it makes like my hands start sweating. But I think it is an exciting opportunity, because I think, I'm excited to what I would learn. I'm excited to this time coming in with this whole journey. I mean, and I keep joking that last year I had the chance to go back to Everest, just to the base, and I brought the books. I brought the English version, the UK version, and it was so cold. I mean, actually, I climbed Kalapatar. I was seeing the sunrise, and I will never forget how freezing it was. And actually, this they had a very cold season this year as well. But I was meditating, and just having my time to myself there, and I remember asking permission. And according to me, I heard yes, come back. And I'm laughing because I'm taking that voice that I heard inside about, like, okay, I mother of the world, I asked you for permission. You said I could come back. And if she kills me in an avalanche, I'll be like, hey, I thought you said I could come back. I can imagine the mountain being like, what are you talking about? That was your voice. So, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just excited. I'm thrilled. I think that, you know, what many people have told me at times is the fear of, what if something happens to you? What if, and I think many of us sometimes also stop short of our dreams because of that fear, because of that idea. I was like, oh, yeah, 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 and this and that. And of course, there's, I mean, even your own journey about, launching the podcast. I'm sure at the very beginning, it's like, what if my first interview goes wrong? What if, like, all the A to C's? But I learned this over the summer. Fear at the end is a thin curtain. I mean, we look at fear as an iron curtain, as like it's unstoppable. But if we realize fear is possibly as thick as a cloud, is absolutely so thin that it is just a blockage. And once we get over that fear, we get to realize, like, oh my god, that first idea almost prevented me from something so powerful. So, and that is one of the biggest metaphors from the book, as well as you see the journey. And I think it's one of these, as we try to reach our dreams.
I love this. Can we talk about recently you were in a room full of really big people and you spoke. I want to know what did you tell all of these individuals that made them all in awe? Because we're talking the wealthiest of the wealthy, where you were in this room, you gave a speech about who you are and what you've done. What is it that resonated with them that they all went, oh, now we all know Sylvia and wow.
I think your authenticity. I come, and I will tell you something that is really funny. I I still have an accent. And I remember coming into this country, and started getting into the workforce, and meeting a lot of friends who would be taking classes to get rid of their accents. And I think I did try one time, but I just, it was a little too hard, and it stayed with me. And the only time that I got a little bit like, "Ugh," was when I recorded my audiobook in English. I had spent 3 months in Peru ahead of it, and I came back, and my Spanish accent, like my accent was a little thicker. And I remember, so there was a one time I'm like, okay, but for the most part, it's a one enduring thing that I love about myself. And I think your authenticity. I feel that was something that potentially stuck with a lot of people. I mean, the authenticity of sharing the story, the authenticity and vulnerability. I would say those are maybe the two things that I took for granted, no, that most of us take for granted at times. And I was very, very purposeful. I think it was so funny right before going. one of the previous speakers, he was about to be interviewed in a group setting, and he said like, "Oh my God, I am so glad I'm not going alone." And I was like, "Oh God." I mean, I'm like, I'm going after on my own. And then he was so cute. He was like, "Okay, well, Barbara Streisand used to say that if you're nervous, it's because you care." And number one, I laugh because I'm like, oh my God, that's the gayest thing to say, and I love it. So and so when I started the talk, I said out loud, "Hi everybody, Barbara Streisand used to say, if you're nervous, it's because you care." So I'm deeply caring for all of you. And it was such a sweet way of saying it. But it is, I mean, and so the authenticity, the vulnerability, I felt that is possibly what we lose a lot of times. And the whole idea of how do I mean, this idea of perfection, this idea, and I feel so bad for young people when you look at social media and these Instagrams and or the TikToks and this whole notion of like you need to be a certain way or look a certain way to potentially achieve a certain following or this and that. To the hell of it. The hardest thing is finding your authentic self. And this is going to sound quite cliche, blah blah blah, but for me, I feel that the journey of being sober is what really got me to really find who I was, with all my, I'm going to call it bells and whistles, but possibly are more annoyances and just, and possibly defects. But it is just, be your authentic self. I mean, and that's possibly, even though it sounds easy, is the hardest one, because being your authentic self is looking inside of you, looking at all your flaws, looking as and looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself the question, am I happy with who I am? Am I happy, with the life that I'm leading? In my case, I will tell you, as I was drinking, as I was a raging alcoholic, I had a hard time looking at myself in the mirror and being like, am I happy with the life I'm leading? And I feel that a lot of times when we are with pain, or we are with undealt trauma, regardless of what it is easily to mask ourselves. And we might pretend that we're fooling everybody, but that's not authenticity. And people who know, they can smell it a mile away. So and so I would say, authenticity and vulnerability are possibly the two things that maybe made my message stuck.
I completely love that because I am a big proponent. You will hear me say over and over, I hate the word authentic, authenticity, because I feel if you have to use it, then you really aren't authentic. You should just show up as yourself. And
Yeah.
I, for sure, have never really thought in the way that you've just put it of people struggle with being themselves because it means they have to look internally at themselves
Mhm.
and to ask these questions. And I think there's so many people who are, as you said, unhappy. They aren't where they want to be. They haven't addressed the trauma that has gone on in their lives. And so that is why they struggle to show up and be okay as they are in front of others. So this is a lesson for me too, because I appreciate it because I hate the word. I'm like, just be yourself. Like, who cares? But I understand how it can be hard for people if they don't like who they are.
And I think, the beautiful side that I love about where we are right now, in the world, is that, for example, you can say, if you're about to give a presentation, if you're about to present something, and be honest and be like, everybody, I'm just going through a little of a hard time, or it's been a difficult week. I mean, that that doesn't take anything away. I mean, number one, by doing that, you're being authentic. You're telling everyone, God, I'm having a little bit of a rough time, but I'm here. I'm showing up. I mean, that that you're marrying authenticity and vulnerability on that little innocent aspect. And whoever judges you, then let them. Whoever does it, I mean, I that's been one of the lessons as well that I have learned this year. I mean, don't please anybody. Just please yourself and watch it for yourself. I mean, even at my age, even with this amazing year, I mean, this was a very disappointing year with some people as well that I thought were friends. and realizing that not everybody has your back even though they pretend it. And don't, and if you come across anything like that, don't undermine yourself. I mean, don't try to be like, ooh, what did I do wrong? It's never you doing it wrong if it comes from your heart. If you know that you haven't done anything to annoy the other person, it's not you, and we're not here to please anybody. So I would say, don't be afraid. I think then again, authenticity, vulnerability, and fear. You know, I think that authenticity and vulnerability can cross fear. And I don't know, I feel that, an authentic and vulnerable, some people might look at it as weak or as, not badass, or just, having the strength. But to me, those two core, those two competencies, or those two, I guess, emotions, literally are, the stone that can lead us to anywhere. And so, I mean, this just don't, especially as we put ourselves vulnerable, sometimes we want to get the acceptance, and we're hoping, and I think, I mean, and I've gone through this as well. Going through the vulnerability is almost like you want to make sure, and even as you're telling everybody that you're being vulnerable, you're hoping you're going to get the empathy from everybody, and that might not always be the case.
Right.
But you're getting the empathy from yourself by saying it, by recognizing it, by honoring that part of you that is maybe going through a little bit of a hard time, is what is going to take you to magical places.
This needs to be your next book. What's funny is you mentioned the word badass, and I remember I came home from meeting you, and I told my 7-year-old what a badass is as I described you. And I said, "But we don't use that word because you're 7 and you could get in trouble, but you're gonna meet a badass Sylvia someday." And so she knows that you are the definition of badass, of, sharing yourself, of going through what you've gone through and then talking about it. And I love that this is what she equates to being a badass. It's you. So I appreciate that.
Well, I love. I mean, I usually call myself like crying badass, and I actually, I just did I just wrote a piece for Rebel Girls, so I'm on the
Mm,
latest installment of Rebel Girls, and my message to all the young girls is like, vulnerability as your superpower. So I'm excited about, just keep sharing to whoever wants to listen, that to me vulnerability is what has led me to climb mountains. And I joke because in I used to grow up with I was raised Catholic, and we used to have a phrase about, faith moves mountains,
mhm.
and I call it faith climbs mountains. So I've adjusted as well to to my own purpose.
I love this. This is the perfect, we're gonna wrap up this year with this episode, because I feel like this is what people need to hear for the new year, is that it's okay to be vulnerable. I love that you say to get up and just say where you are. I think that coming from the corporate world where, you have to mind your P's and Q's, and we don't say this. And if you have children, you don't say that you're leaving to go to a soccer game or whatever it is. And yet I've learned in the past 5 years that if I just say this is what it is, I'm not taking a call on Monday, period. I'm not making excuses. I'm just simply not doing it because it's what I do. That it's okay. And I don't have to apologize for it, because others are okay too. If you're honest, then others accept that. And I think that's a lesson in vulnerability, that people will accept you. If they don't, then, screw them. But it's okay to tell your truth.
And I have to tell you, I mean, I think it's, as you said, even though, you and I might not have seen it during the time of our corporate world, I feel it needs to change. I think maybe companies are going to be more open to look at it because, I mean, there's going to be a big change in the way work is done. And even right now with remote working and, I mean, whatever it is, but I feel, in order to get the most productivity, it's like the most honest that you can become, and for people to be respectful. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that is another part, but more important, I think, for the listeners. I mean, as you are, wherever you are, whatever situation is happening, I would say, it's an evaluation. Is it, are you happy with what you're doing? And if not, if you're already finding yourself that there is a call for something else, to just have the faith, to just have, the hope. I mean, just to trust. I guess that inner trust also comes with vulnerability, with authenticity. And don't be afraid to just go berserk, write it, draw it, whatever it is, find inspiration on any way. And that's the other aspect that I heavily talk in the book about, this component called awe, that we have taken it for granted, especially as adults. And I think, our day to day life sometimes lead us to be living from a box. And
Mhm.
it's usually, trying to do multiple things. It's a huge box, it's a pretty big box. But, it's certain situations that sometimes like make us feel stuck. And what I have seen is time in nature allows us to reconnect to that awe, which completely just takes away of the box and allows us to see, okay, well, what is the dream? What is there? What is it that my heart is bringing me to? So that's another side that, as anybody who is listening, who is wondering, what would be like, I have this dream, or I know there's something else or something bigger I want to do, components to get you out there is a little time in nature is so powerful. A longer time in nature is can be so transformative. But there are certain areas that, there are a lot of different tools that can get us to that dream. And whichever it is, on whatever way. I mean, I have been so lucky to have been in conversations, to usually had spoken to audiences that I have heard feedback about. God, what you said a couple of years earlier really made a change. I remember having a young woman approach to me and said, "Listen, I started my own nonprofit because of what you said, and it's been going fantastic." And so, just, you know, you gotta just trust. You gotta. I think it's more, at the end of the day, the homework is on us. But these are little tools that can open you up. And I've always said, and this year possibly was my biggest learning, that, I know, or when something doesn't work out, and if we have the gratitude about it, something even more magical can open up for you. And it's, I mean, it's just matter of trusting that.
Sylvia, thank you for being such a beautiful human being. Thank you for sharing yourself with all of us. I truly feel very blessed and lucky to call you friend, to have read your
Mhm.
story, to live so close to you. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I've been telling people, this book, though it looks like a little mountaineering book, one of the things that has made me very, very proud is to have heard the number of people who've read it and telling me, God, you've pushed me to ask, okay, what is my dream? Because you will see, it's like all the trials, tribulations that it took to get there, the times that it almost didn't happen, all the different challenges, the avalanches that got thrown left and right, but it's still, I think is the learning. I mean, as I said, shameless, and just simply, just have that inner trust, that inner vision that can happen.
Thank you. Where can everybody find you?
Well, I have the easiest thing is my social media, Silvia Vasla. Even though my last name is long, is Vasquez-Lavado.
I love your last name. I just want to say it all the time. Vasquez-Lavado.
Vasquez-Lavado. It's my mom and dad's. And the reason that I ended up hyphenating it, I came here with a scholarship and I didn't know I was going to stay in this country. And if I needed to go back, I knew, like, in my country, they always identify you by your two last names. And here, in order for me to get my degree with both my last names to make it valid, because Vasquez is a very popular last name in Latin America, it just felt like I needed to have them attached. And so, and then, what started as like, well, I might have to go back, is become like, all right, well, that's the last name. But in social media, I am Vasla, Vasla, which are the initials of my two last names. That's the easiest way to find me, Sylvia Vasla on Instagram. You can look at me on Facebook. I haven't been posting as much. I got to get back into it. My website as well, Sylvia Vasla. And even if you go into intheshadowofthemountain.com, that should lead you to myself. So I'm searchable. And even if you put Sylvia, Silvia, and Everest, so far I think I'm the most noticeable Sylvia that has climbed Everest.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Michelle, thank you so much for creating this platform. I am excited about what you just telling us in terms of your dream. Coming, the birth of your book is step one. Everything else is coming, and I am thrilled, and I am so looking forward to be celebrating you in not even a month. Just getting
Yes.
closer.
Thank you. Okay, friends, there's only 6 days until the new year. So, what are your dreams? What do you truly want to happen? Are you saying them out loud? Are you writing them down? Are you creating the vision board? And on top of that, are you looking into yourself and accepting what's happened to you, what journey you're on, who you are, who you've become? And are you sharing that openly and freely with others? I think it's so beautiful to be able to accept yourself and then share of yourself. And I truly hope that that is the intention for each and every one of us as we go into the new year. Don't be afraid to be who you are. And when others are who they are, let us all remember to accept them freely and to appreciate their openness and vulnerability. I wish each and every one of you a very happy new year. As a very quick reminder, How to Get On podcast is available for pre-orders, and it will launch in the beautiful new year, January 17th. So that way you can learn how to share your story with everyone else so that we can celebrate you, accept you, and recognize the beauty that is within you.